Yo, what's up everyone? This is Kisunia101 from plusapokerstrategy.com. As you know, I stopped playing poker for a while, and now I'm getting back into poker. And one of the things I like to do when I do that is, to try to play really solid poker. I've been playing rush poker recently, and I realized that I have a very terrible 3-bet percentage. I have like a 4% 3-bet after the first session, and I was like, what in the world am I doing, right? So I decided to make this video about 3-betting, and I will make a very specific situation on a button, and how can I expand my range and 3-bet more and open up my game. Okay, let's just do some basic mathematics. I play 1-2, so there's $3 in the blinds. Say someone from early position opens it up to $6, and we 3-bet it from the button to $18. Okay, so now the pot have $27. Commonly, or usually, when you 3-bet, your opponent is going to 4-bet you, or it's going to fold. Sometimes they call. You have to watch out for that. But usually they will 4-bet you. And I don't 3-bet much. Or if you do not 3-bet a lot, it's probably because you're scared that you will get 4-bet bluff a lot, or you think that people 4-bet bluff you a lot. That's why you're not 3-betting bluff. So assume he 4-bet bluff to $40, which is pretty standard size. 38, 40, 42. Usually it's 40. Let's see how much fold equity is needed for him to make this profitable. First of all, he is risking 40 minus 6, which is 34, to win 27. So the maths will look something like this: risking 34 to win 27. 55.74%. Because this is assuming that he's bluffing here and he loses when you call, you re-raise him. He just needs 55.74% fold equity. Now let's look at what does this mean for you as the 3-better. My first question to you is, what do you raise for value on a button? Just think about it. For me, 3% is a pretty standard, purely for value here. Jacks, queen, kings, aces, ace, kings. If you cannot shove jacks for value versus a 4-bet here, that means that your opponent is not 4-betting you often enough, and is not exploiting you when you 3-bet him. So you can just bluff him more and just fold to his 4-bets, because when he's 4-bets, he's 4-betting for value too often. But if he's a balanced player, or he's an aggressive player, you certainly can 3-bet and get it in with jacks here profitably. So it's about 3% of hands. So what does this mean? 55.74% of the time is a fold equity that he needs, which means if you're bluffing anything more than that, you are exploitable. He can be 4-betting you a time, and you will have to fold, assuming that you do not reshove him as a bluff. Let's do some maths again. 3% of hands equals 3% of the total hand range equals to 44.26% of your hand on the button that you can be 3-betting to be balanced here. What this means is you can be 3-betting 6.78% of the time, and folding 4.78% of the time when he re-raised, and you will now be exploited. This is, you know, it's a pure balance thing, you know. As you can see here, you know, if means 6.78% is your total range. If you take 3%, divide by that is 44.2623, which is the same as this. You know, I hope you guys are following me. If you don't, you know, you can ask in the comment section, but you know, I'm just going to continue. I mean, it's quite interesting, you know, if you do note that if you're raising more than 6.78% on a button to 18 and you're getting 4 bet to 40 a lot, they're actually exploiting you, because you have to fold, you know, you have to fold more than 55.74% of the time if you're raising more than 6.78% of the time, assuming your value range is 3%. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about ranges. For me, on the button, as a standard, I like to do it with, you know, some junk like this. Yeah, maybe at this, you know, somewhere around 6.9, you know, somewhere close. This is the range that I will raise usually. I like to do it with suited hands, because if for some reason he does call, you have some playability. You know, the king and queen does take some outs away from his hand that can fall back you and get it in. Even a jack, you know, take away pocket jacks. Yeah, but assuming that if the blinds are very squeezy, you know, if you're gonna get squeezed a lot from a blind, I like to add a portion of my hand range that I will usually call with into my 3 betting range, so it just lessen the amount of time or lessen the opportunity that I give the blinds to squeeze me, you know. So I might, you know, now be 3 betting, you know, something like this instead. You know, I can add some suited aces up. I can add some suited aces if I want to do that, rather than 6-7, because, you know, the ace eliminate one card from his range that can re-raise. And when he 4-bet bluff, he's going to 4-bet bluff a lot of king x hand and ace x hand. So, you know, the ace and the king is generally just a good bluff card to have to be bluffing as a 3-bet. You know, that's all for, you know, hand ranges. You know, it's very simple, very straightforward. You'll be shoving with this range and be folding everything else. But let's say if you want to raise more than 6.78% on the button, you know, 6.78%, you know, sounds, you know, around 7%, which is okay, but it's not a lot. You know, say you want to be more aggressive. There's 2 ways to go about it. One is to increase the range that is 5-bet shoving. What a lot of people do is they start adding ace queen into here, but I really don't think that's a good idea. What would be a better idea, in my humble opinion, you know, okay, sorry, let's just do a simple basic calculation. Let's say if, you know, now that if you have 4%, value range, or if you're shoving 4% of the time versus a 4-bet, now you can actually have a total range of 9%, which is a lot of hands now, you know. Say your standard range was just now I give the range was this range, but now you can actually raise 9%, so you can actually add 2 more percent in. You know, so you can add something like this in. Okay, 8.9%, perfect. No, the 0.1% doesn't really matter. So what you will be doing in this range is that you will be bluffing 1% of the time, which is ace 3, ace 2 suited, 4s, 3s and 2s. You'll be shoving this as a bluff. yeah, sorry, that is not accurate. You only can add 1 more percent to shove as a bluff, which means you will have 5% of junk. So let's just add more junk. This is 8.8%. yeah, so you need 1 more percent. Alright, now you have 9%. So you'll be shoving deuces and threes as a bluff here. Jacks, queen, aces and ace kings as for value, which means you'll be bluffing 1% of the time when you're shoving, and you'll be folding these hands. Now you can be balanced and be raising more and not exploitable at the same time. You know, how good is that, right? The second method, which is actually one that I will be experimenting in the future, and you know, one that I like, is to be it works pretty well, especially if the blinds are squeezy, is to 3-bet hands and call 4-bet rather than just 5-bet shoving. I mean, I talked about this before about 3-betting. You know, when someone 3-bets you in position, you know, it's because you were 4-bet or 4 most of the time, right? So if that's what's expecting, you know, you should be calling there some percentage of the time, or you should be just calling there every single time, you know, when you have a good hand. It's the same thing with 4-betting. You know, why does he 4-bet you? You know, when someone 4-bets you, he's going to have a polarized range. He's going to have the nuts, you know, of he's going to ace deuce offsuit, right? So what you can do now is actually call 4-bet. If you call a 4-bet, usually there's 2 more bets, you know, to the flop, you know, which is still some playability. It's not that bad, you know. Now let's put back this to 3%. Well, actually, it doesn't really matter how much percent you have now, because you're not folding ever to a 4-bet. No, actually, no, that's not true. You can actually do this 2 ways. One is to never fold to a 4-bet, which means you'll be 3-betting, you know, a range like this, and you'll be calling every single time he 4-bets to see a flop. Or you can be 3-betting a range like this and bluffing with a range like this, and you'll be just folding this portion of your hands, and you'll be calling with this. What this gives you is, you know, 4.5. So now you actually call a raise with 4.5% of the time. So you can be 3-betting 10% of the time and not be exploitable. You know, I hope you see where I'm going. This is exactly the same as the previous situation, where, you know, you increase the amount of hands that can play back against a 4-bet, but, you know, rather than shoving, now you're calling. It's a different method of playing back. So what you can do now is you can have 10% of bluffs. You know, you can like add total junk in here, and you can get 10% of hands, and you know, this will be the range that you'll be folding, and this will be the hands that you're defending against. Of course, this which would mean that you need to play post flop, which is a little tricky. You know, if your opponent is a very good player, you might not want to play post flop with him. But in a pot that is that big, usually your hand plays itself anyway. So, you know, I wouldn't say it would be very bad or very negative EV or whatever. You know, you have a very strong hand. He's going to be 4-bet bluffing you a lot, and he's going to go to the flop with ace deuce a lot. When he have ace deuce and you have ace king and ace queen, you know, or even kings, you know, you're dominating him, you know, so what's there to worry, right? There will be times you need to make marginal calls or tough folds when you have kings and the flop come with an ace, you know, that will happen. You know, I mean, if the flop come out ace, most player will not bet shove, you know, almost ever, you know. So I would probably call 1 and 4 the turn, unless there's a lot of draws out there. I have a very good reason to believe that it's still positive EV to call. If not, I would just end up folding it. Yeah. So yeah, that's it for this video. It's pretty short, but I'll say it's pretty interesting video. I will expand on this, you know, in the further articles probably next week or so. And I hope you learned something here. The two methods to play back at your opponent, or to increase your potential 3-bet range, is basically just to increase your playback range by 5-betting as a shove, or you know, you just add more hands, add more polarized hands like ace, queen, or 8 and king, queen suited, and end up just calling his 4-bet. Do not, if you know you're gonna add ace queen here and call his 4-bet ace queen, you have to do it with aces. You know, you're just gonna be massively unbalanced and predictable. You know, of course, it's gonna take a while for your opponent to figure it out, but you know, it's just like super imbalanced. And when you do call 4-bet, actually players will put you on ace, queen, and jacks most of the time. If not, you know, you also play aces. You know, I know a lot of players would not like the last method of calling the 4-bet and would prefer the 5-bet shoving method. And the 5-bet shoving method is the conventional method, to, you know, to add that 1% in as a bluff. Most of the time because of the ace king, because people do not want to call 4-bet with ace king, miss the flop and have to fold. But you don't have to fold. What you can do is just shove over any c-bet he does. Of course, assuming that your opponent is aggressive to start with, right? If he's gonna have a lot of junk on the flop, you know, just shove the flop when he bets. Do not fold your ace king, you know. And if you hit, you know, you basically treat it as the nuts, you know. Actually, you can actually do the same thing with ace queen if your opponent is aggressive enough. Yeah, so that's it for now. I hope you took some time to digest the information and test some of these methods and incorporate some of these 3-bet strategy and ranges into your game. Thank you for watching. This is Kitsune 101 from Plus A Poker Strategy, and goodbye.